Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to conduct a high-stakes security audit of your personal life, and we'll be doing it using 500-year-old Machiavellian principles. You know, the most dangerous lie we've ever told ourselves is that we can easily spot an enemy just by the look in their eyes. Well, we're about to strip away the mask of everyday social interactions and look at the cold, mechanical reality of human behavior when power, access, and status are really on the line.
So who will finally destroy you? We all love to think our enemies are going to attack us on some open battlefield. But the brutal, crucial point here is that the most devastating wars are actually won right at your dinner table by someone you willingly handed the keys to. The person who eventually dismantles your world isn't a stranger standing outside the gates. It's someone who sat in your safe spaces, listened to your insecurities, and smiled right back at you.
And that brings us to a really fascinating distinction. A street-level enemy is actually kind of a gift. Why? Because you see them coming, you hear their threats, and you can prepare your defenses. But the trusted infiltrator? They map out the exact geometry of your heart while you're busy calling them a friend. You project your own integrity onto them and feel perfectly safe, simply because the wolf happens to be smiling.
It's really important to remember that Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't writing for people who wanted to be good. He was essentially history's ultimate security consultant. He stripped away the mask to show how people actually behave when power is up for grabs, noting that we are so eager to trust and so swayed by our immediate emotional needs that we practically invite deception right through the front door.
Which leads us to his brutal verdict, Machiavellian utility. Look, most people aren't loyal to you, they're loyal to your utility, what you provide for them. The moment your value drops, say you lose a job or a bit of social influence, that friendship liquidates like a failing currency. You might think you're just being a loyal friend, but Machiavelli would say you're a perfect victim, completely ignoring the silent tells of a dormant predator.
Okay, so what are these silent tells? Let's move to our first sign of a dormant predator. We'll call this the tactical mirror. This is an infiltrator who uses the illusion of sameness to bypass your psychological security systems. Think about your own life for a second. Think about the last time you met someone and felt this instant magical connection, like an insta-twin. Within weeks, they loved your obscure music, echoed your exact frustrations, and you just felt so incredibly seen.
You feel that rush and immediately call it cosmic chemistry, or fate, right? But what you call chemistry, a Machiavellian mind recognizes as a highly successful infiltration. You're literally being scanned like source code. They aren't showing you who they are. They're just reflecting you back to yourself, hacking our biology to trust what looks beautifully familiar.
Notice the playbook happening here. They completely speedrun the trust process. Real trust takes years of shared conflict and proven sacrifice, but the tactical mirror bypasses all of that in just a few weeks. They reflect your values to manufacture an artificial soul debt that appeals directly to your ego, and they stick around only until a more profitable host happens to appear on their radar.
So I highly recommend you audit your circle right now using these warning signs. If you stop talking and they suddenly have absolutely no original thoughts, well, you aren't losing a friend, you're losing a parasite. A genuinely loyal person has a spine. They have boundaries and clear points of disagreement. The tactical mirror is just a collection of stolen parts waiting to shed your skin the second they find someone more powerful to imitate.
But what if the danger isn't someone copying you, but someone hedging their bets against you? Moving to the second invisible ghost, we find the status hedger. This is the market speculator holding your friendship like a volatile stock. In the shadows, in private, they are your biggest supporter. But watch what happens the second you step into the light and someone with more power actively challenges you.
You might defend them. You say, oh, they just hate conflict. They like to stay neutral. But the harsh truth, they don't hate conflict. They hate losing. They are waiting to see who wins the exchange so they don't end up on the losing side of the social hierarchy. When real leverage is involved, they miraculously lose their voice.
Just think about the massive gap in support here. When someone with real leverage attacks your reputation, the hedger's public defense instantly drops to absolutely zero. They'll try to pay you in private sympathy later, just to keep their options open. That private apology isn't real remorse. It's just a tax they pay to keep their hand warmly on your shoulder while their feet are firmly planted in your enemy's camp.
By keeping a status hedger in your inner circle who checks these boxes, you are literally subsidizing your own replacement. You're actively teaching your rivals that your loyalty is incredibly cheap. You're handing a king's ransom of trust to a fair-weather merchant who will totally abandon you the minute your utility expires.
And that brings us to the third, and honestly perhaps the most dangerous predator of all,
The unsolicited shield. This is someone who manufactures a climate of fear to perform a social lobotomy on your life. They don't attack you directly. Instead, they constantly exaggerate or manufacture outside threats, entirely designed to keep you in a state of absolute dependence.
You probably think their constant reports of gossip mean they really have your back. But through a Machiavellian lens, this is a strategic isolation tactic. They are making you a hostage to their honesty. A person who feels safe doesn't need a protector, right? They want you fragile, paranoid, and completely locked in.
It's master triangulation at work. By controlling the flow of information to you, the arsonist makes themselves the only stable point in your life. They twist what people say just enough to spark a fire, and then stand there expecting you to praise them for showing up with the fire extinguisher. It's an exhausting loop designed entirely for their control.
If someone exhibits these exact traits, they are feeding off your insecurity. Because if you realized how capable and independent you actually are, their gatekeeping job would be totally over. The moment you start making your own friends, watch them weaponize their service and play the victim, making you feel like a traitor simply for acting freely.
So, the absolutely crucial point is how we execute a system reset. First up, cut off the fear fuel. Stop thanking them for their warnings. Let them fear your unexplained distance. The next time they eagerly bring you gossip, just ignore it. Watch the absolute panic in their eyes as you cut off their supply and finally reclaim the gates of your inner sanctum.
Now look, Machiavelli didn't document these dark mechanics just to make us all paranoid cynics. He exposed them so you could stop playing the perfect victim, stop being a courtier, and start being the sovereign architect of your own life. It's time to open your eyes to these silent tells and rebuild your inner circle with absolute precision.
Because the knife never comes from the front. The world just doesn't reward the endlessly hopeful, it rewards the perceptive. You must always remember that the ultimate betrayal requires prior access. An enemy screaming outside your gates is just noise, but an infiltrator who already has the combination to your vault, that is an existential threat.
So, now that the audit is complete, look closely at the reflections in your circle. Ask yourself this one final, vital question before it's too late. Are you handing the proprietary code of your life over to a mirror, a hedger, or a shield? Who is currently holding the keys to your vault? It's time to take your keys back.